and we would of course widen the conversation to a lot of things that are happening within and around the country. We would primarily do this conversation in English because it was a bit difficult yesterday that when I speak Mandinka, there are a lot of people who do not understand Mandinka. And if I speak Wolof, there are other people who do not understand Wolof. Preferably, I would speak Manjago because that's probably the language I understand the most and doesn't reflect the fact that that's what I am now. Or maybe I should speak Karoninka. But anyway, that's beside the point, just a joke. So what I did today was that since the whole, I'll first preface with, Batambedu's documents, What I did today was, to print Batambedu's documents and, unfortunately I couldn't number everything because I started numbering them and then I think I went all the way down to, 200 plus or I couldn't continue because I was too busy. Almost 300, I was busy. But the other document that has what they consider scraps, 218. So I think, Jammeh had scrap 218 and quite a lot more on the other seat. So maybe over 500 or thousands of materials that are all considered scrap. But where do I want to preface this conversation, knowing fully well that, I did not get to talk to family yet to know what happened in the court today. But first we start with, the fact is that I don't know what kind of people work in the government of the Gambia because they don't understand scrap and scrap. They keep spelling things so differently. So none of these documents I would consider to be authentic. These are just fake nonsenses done by Batambedu and his group. And whoever would have been there who is actually assigned to do it. But what do I want to focus on? First, I want to focus on this particular, document. And this document is considered as additional list of scraps. But what is it exactly that happened with this additional list of scraps? So none of these documents is actually scrap. All of these documents are more or less like, cooked and fabricated because most of Jammeh's assets, you will not call them scraps because we know that guy doesn't deal with scraps. But today I'm not going to look at vehicles here and there. We would look at, resources that were supporting irrigation projects, in different parts of the Gambia. And we would specify, a few in Fonyi. Now, in as much as we know and agree that Fonyi is a stronghold of Jammeh, that is his origin, that is where he came from and all that. But there were a lot of agricultural projects too that were happening within and around because he had animals and then he had farms there, here and there. And all of those farms, I don't know if they were personally just benefiting Jammeh here and there, but these farms were used by women and other people within and around those communities. But what I do not understand is that if a commission is established to actually look at, the affairs of Jammeh as per how he acquired his wealth, what is the rationale behind going to rural farmers in the Gambia, retrieving or seizing, tractors from them when it was almost about a rainy season? Then the government of the Gambia started giving them donkeys, and then they took those, tractors and sold them among themselves for $100,000 each. A tractor would cost almost $4 or $5 million. Even if these tractors were Jammeh's personal assets, and they were given to Gambian farmers, and the farmers were utilizing them, and you realize that they are actually in Jammeh's name, probably seize them, take them not from the farmers, from Jammeh and give them to the farmers, or let the farmers continue using them. That is for the greater good of the country and for the populace who are dependent on agriculture. But what did the government of the Gambia do? Or what have they done? Adama Barrow's regime went to Gambian farmers, seized tractors that were given to them by Jammeh, probably because they are in the name of Jammeh, and then they actually seize all of these tractors and share it among themselves and sell it among themselves. These are the people that really care about the well-being of Gambians, who came into power to actually empower Gambians, to boost our agricultural industry. But in short, they were seizing, tractors from the rural farmers and then selling it among themselves. And when they sell the tractors among themselves at a price that nobody could imagine, 100,000, they will go back to those farmers and be renting these tractors to them on a daily basis. Within a week, you make more than 100,000 that you bought this, tractor for. But the tractors were either bought by Jammeh from, state money or his money, but they were giving to Gambian farmers to utilize. So what is the essence of you seizing from them and then selling it to yourselves? Because these tractors were put into good use. Not that the tractors were only stagnant on Jammeh's farms. They were being used by the Gambians who are into agriculture. So why would you seize them? Even if you seize all of these tractors, why didn't you give the tractors to the Ministry of Agriculture? Why did the government of the Gambia feel the need to sell those tractors instead of giving them to the Ministry of Agriculture? Or there was no longer any agricultural activity happening in the Gambia? That farmers do not need those tractors, you have to sell them to yourselves. And then go back to those farmers and be renting it to them so that you can make more money. That's the economics of the greedy. And that is exactly what Adama Barrow's government looks like. Honestly, nobody thought that this government will be as disgusting as it is at this point in time. My goodness, we got an alarm here that gives us Dubai time. Give me a second. For some reason, they bought stuff from Dubai, and then this Dubai stuff kept giving you Dubai prayer times here and there. But yes, you take away the tractors from Gambian farmers. You did not actually sell them, or probably give them to the Department of Agriculture or Ministry of Agriculture, or give them back to communities that are into agricultural activities. No, you decided to keep these tractors, sell it among yourself at a price that nobody could ever imagine. Go ahead and go for golf. You don't buy it for 100,000. So who would buy a tractor for 100,000 and you think you have bought a tractor at a market valued price? That's not true. Aliata Gambia do balobulu. Almadundi kutomi alon kabe banko be nafala. Alia wafwal damalia. And that is what you people told us, that is good governance. That Jammeh is evil. You are coming to correct the evils that were happening in the Gambia. In correcting the evils, you seize tractors from poor Gambian farmers and then you sell it among you, the so-called elites. And then you will go back to those farmers and then be renting these tractors to them so that you can milk them further, when you are supposed to empower them and then give them enhanced livelihood through social innovations and other projects related to agriculture and so on. Subsidize their productions. But that is not what you did. You further cripple the agricultural industry. You further cripple the subsistence farmers. You further inject poverty and backwardness on those people because you seize tractors that we are giving to them by Jammeh simply because they are in the name of Jammeh. And then in your quest to be so evil, you pretentiously putting everything as Jammeh's assets. You seize these tractors from the farmers and then you went back to sell it among yourselves so that you can go and rent it again to those farmers. I told you more jawol nana maja dunia adlar. I told you Jammeh, let's put one thing into context. Agamolla molfa. But don't be come, moye fa fan wala visa ko may nanan comme ila baludla be tinyana bodo wala ko ika balu mi fon la fon bondable to inject abject poverty to you so that you can die slowly. The mental trauma alone that you people injected in some of these agricultural communities and farmers is beyond comprehensible. And that is what you people thought you were governing the Gambia, right? Because you go and retrieve tractors from farmers and you sell it among yourself and you thought that was great, and then all you can sell a tractor for $100,000, see? Man, and you all want everybody to be quiet and watch things, and I see people boy, fatal land. And you said buy your mum dekabi. Just like one of their ministers said. As aggressive and disgusting and rude as some of them could be, I think it's important that Gambians begin to show these folks that, look, if you can do 2, we can do 10. If you can loot our republic, we could stand and defend the country beyond that you can ever imagine. Imagine somebody taking an excavator. What were they doing? Because sometimes you need to put into context. If Jammeh owns 1 million tractors, what were the tractors doing? Look at context and purpose. Were they only working on Jammeh farms? Probably not. And if they are actually giving to Gambian farmers, why would you seize them from the farmers and sell it among yourself? What are you going to do with a tractor? To run business with Jammeh's property so you can go and milk Gambian farmers again. Well, excavator Bohamantan, like on a day, I thought, because the last time I ever know about excavator rentals, it was around 30,000. But I'm told to rent an excavator from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is basically 60,000 or more. Yen Genjai excavator be 25,000. Excavator to rent it for just one day is 60,000. But a full excavator was sold for 25,000. Does it make any sense? If I am to rent an excavator, I pay 60,000. If I am to buy an excavator, I buy it for 25,000. Double plus the price of buying is basically the price of rental. This is what the government of the Gambia under Adama Barrow want us to believe. That they have done right with the Jammeh assets. That's why we told you, if you're trying to bring about stability and justice, it's not done on emotions and hate. Min ko ita ko ita wala nyinti ko ya Jammeh kurial intapale ya jamala ka Gambia mi ya lon ko he need to be accountable for them. But you were not accounting Jammeh. You were just against Gambian people. You people wanted to enrich yourself at the expense of the ordinary Gambian, and that's exactly what some of you were doing. Because if you retrieve all of these things from Jammeh, like the landed assets, why didn't you give some of those lands back to their communities like in Brufut Heights? If Jammeh seized all our lands, beat our people, and then forcefully take those lands, you came and retrieved some of those lands, you share it among your ministers. Just like you did for those material assets. That's exactly what you did with the landed properties. But still, we got to focus a little bit on the activities within the Fonyi belt. Let's say Kanilai, to be specific. We know Jammeh had like a big farm, and then other neighborhoods were all involved in farming activities, and people could actually use most of those farmland areas for their personal whatevers. Most of these farms, fortunately, I've never been to Kanilai. I think I only visited Kanilai one night simply because I think there was an event with Zachary Naik and UTG students were supposed to be there. By virtue of the fact that I was the student president, I had to be in the bus, and it was quite late. I never even know where I know I passed by, but I've never been inside. I don't know what. First, I thought right on the highway was Kanilai, but I was told that it's way inside, so I really don't know. But clearly, what I am being told is that Jammeh had big farms. And then in those farms, they have a lot of, boreholes there to make sure that the irrigation and the, the pumping systems are all put intact. And also a lot of boreholes in different communities that were, supporting agricultural production. Now, even if the boreholes and the borehole pumps were all in the name of Yaya Jammeh, you go to rural communities where access to water is even a problem. You go there, destroy those pumps, destroy the tanks, or remove all the pumps, remove all the borehole machines, go and sell it to Jar Oil so he can go and start a farming business somewhere. I cannot even imagine. You think you are inflicting pain on Jammeh? Really? And then you look around, you see the people of Fonyi telling you that, Barrow is a better kind. Barrow is worse than any person you people could ever imagine. It's better you start to think. Maybe somehow, look, Adama Barrow is the most disgusting person that you people keep voting for and think that probably that's a better candidate for you. This is the person who came to your community to remove all the borehole pumps to inject, starvation on your people. Because they alienated your people. They brought in the military from Senegal to be there. They accused you of being rebels. They went out there to kill some people within the midst of you. And of course, my Fati, like an idiot like him, would come out and say that, you know what, obey the law or be consumed by the law. And you people still come back and you are bedfellows with the likes of my Fati and the rest of the people because you're supporting the NPP, which is the most disgusting political establishment I have ever seen in my, adult life. What is Barrow doing for you? Barrow was distributing fertilizer. When they arrived at Kalaji, they jumped all the way. What did they do for you? Boy, you look at the likes of Amul Nyasi and other folks simply because of their individual personal interest. They are following Adama Barrow and you think they are there for the collective good of you people in Fonyi? No, they are not. They don't care about the well-being of any of you. But what I do not understand is that any bohol pompol bondi, in all those communities in Fonyi, to deprive them from access to water simply because Jammeh is from there, and you thought that removing some of these, water boreholes and water pumps and from women gardens, you are injecting extreme poverty and hardship on those people. But these are Gambians like you, Adam Barrow. Ku kilin da so ko ya Jammeh mo fal kele mo kurungol mate tapal yal kele ko sifa be kele true, but Jammeh never went to people's communities where the PPP government would have put borehole pumps to go and remove those borehole pumps and then just to inflict pain on those people. No, he had done a lot of evil, and that nobody can change, even though some people who support him don't want to hear that, but that's the fact. And Jammeh's got to be accountable for his wrongdoings. But going forward, you went to those rural communities where you meet borehole pumps that you would have said that maybe Jammeh put it there, or they are in the name of Jammeh. You deliberately decided to take all of these borehole pumps and go and sell it to businessmen. How are you helping the Gambians who actually voted for you to come and help them build their lives? Oh, because Fonyi votes for Jammeh, you got to alienate them, you got to subjugate them, you got to, kind of subject them to all kind of hardship simply because they don't support this government. I know it used to be Jammeh's language that if you don't vote for me, I'm not going to bring you development. Those are politics. By the end of the day, some of those major roads across those communities that we would think don't vote for Jammeh, they still got, even though some of them don't get electricity and all that. But where there was electricity, Jammeh never removed electricity. Where there was water, Jammeh did not come and destroy their water sources. But that is exactly what Adam Barrow's government did. This I never even heard until recent, that people tell you they came here and they removed our borehole pumps. 2 days. Kanilai, where you have that military base, for 2 days, some of those folks don't even see access to, the portable drinking water. Access to portable drinking water, let alone to talk about taking a shower, because Barrow's government came and destroyed a lot of these water sources, and of course removed all the borehole pumps, went to sell them to Jar Oil so that Jar Oil can go and establish a farm. Now I understand why you gave that man 50 million to actually go about agricultural production and productivity in any way or whatever kind. On the pretext that you actually gave him Jammeh's borehole machines and of course irrigation whatevers. They are right here. I'll tell you, it was suffering Allah kaito la bala. So ite amara boholo mi alon ka be Gambia dingolo mako e kam puri e jio so puri e munna fanno hana tara ko ya Jammeh wasana kare la tammo de bara waka jumala na fa ya Jammeh ke mi wo jio bara ba Gambia dingol min na fa kam bara wala hasidiya batol to, because atol malla fi moy fenso do dunya al malla fi moy hani jio fon ka min fon, you don't want it for Gambians or a section of Gambians. You know what? But me, I would speak what I think, and no idiot would basically put a stop to that, because he can't do nothing about it. And your government will be held to account. Because you cannot take tractors from poor farmers and start selling it to all these, Serakunda nonsensical, bourgeoisies, and then they go back to those communities and then be renting it out to them. Because imagine, at all Falisareto were for 3,000, but Ale Moto were for 5,000. Falisareto, 3,000. And then you actually sell like, a vehicle for like 5,000. In any moment, like a brand new buyer, in any moment, like a motor were for 5,000. Hanemoto Kodola Bible, Nalaso was over from a week to you spend more than 5,000. Let alone to buy a whole vehicle for 5,000. Alkalka from almost scrap, like 290 plus vehicles are all scrap. What kind of scrap is that? Almost scrap, see fale. Allah permanent secretary told fella jang. Untaha sala nyol ni mo kotangol tapale balu. Jammeh was bad, but you want to sleep on a Jammeh bed? Are you thinking? Jammeh killed your people, but you want to drive in Jammeh's vehicle for Ouzo. That's how you call that. That's how you people want to really be taken serious. Arambaro, Okorda Mimbe Bakau, just close to former Daily Observer, where your sister runs a store, a Lima Enterprise. How did that property become yours? or that of those of your families, because that was one of Jammeh's assets. Wala nangaleko, the National Assembly committee that they put up to actually investigate this matter, they cannot do anything. Because first, that National Assembly committee, some of them were part of the previous legislature that shared land among themselves that belongs to the state. So those people in one way or another are not clean. There are people that someday a new government will come and investigate them and seize lands from them, or probably subject them to prison sentences. Because molta sila fanankana banko jiba mola banko tinya tapaleani mbatara yakonala. We had a lot of hopes in this government. And what you people did is the most disgusting level of betrayal to the citizenry. And this communication will not die down in a minute. It's going to be continuous, because we got to hold you accountable. Most of those properties in your names, Barrow, you either put it in the name of your brothers, family members here and there, all of it will eventually come, because it is for foul. Just like Jammeh, 22 years, we thought it was too long. But after 22 years, but we thought we actually got rid of Jammeh for the better, but then it becomes for the worst, because what is happening now? Something that costs 5 million, you sell it for 100,000? I told you to tell I'll do to Gambian or Lalman Gambian or Horoma, I'll give it a fala natambira. And then you go see the lands among your ministers. But I told minister for I told Gambia, I told Gambia Ketale, that you could just share land among ministers, and that you said are actually forfeited assets from Jammeh. Why would your ministers share those lands? The ministers cannot buy land for themselves? That they have to share land that belongs to the entire country, like an animal farm. Lo ñep bokk rek yeen ngeen yena koy sédo. Yeen dal dekk bi non ngeen ko don doxale. But Gambians gave you the benefit of the doubt for 8 to 9 good years. But the coming out of these reports have indicated that your government is the worst in terms of corruption, in terms of disgusting management of state resources, and as well personal enrichment. That is what is explicitly clear in your government. So what is important that we start considering the facts that it is not about you folks in Fonyi thinking, oh yeah, our problem is the UDP, our problem is that. No, your problem is Adama Barrow, because Adama Barrow is the president, and his presidency is, his leadership is what came to your communities to remove borehole pumps and to deny you water, and of course to ensure that your gardens go dry, that you don't even have food to eat. And that's a good president. And they tell you, oh yeah, he's a nice guy. You all should be disgusted enough by this regime, if you are not already. So don't try to make it nice. And oftentimes some of you will try to shift blame. No, it's the UDP. Oh, it's Hussein Dabo. Hussein Dabo what? If you don't like Hussein Dabo, don't vote for him. But account your government that you voted for, or that is actually in power. And that leadership, the strength of this government is manipulation. And their strength is that they made you believe that in contemporary Gambian politics, it's either UDP or NPP. That is why when I talk a lot about NPP, they say, boy, UDP, and they come to my inbox with all kind of insults. But I don't mind. I don't care about all of that. You know what is important? Account the government of the day. You cannot be there and then refusing to account the government, and you want to actually account other people who are still wanting to be in government. In as much as you must account them for the days that they were in government and all that, but then who came to your communities to remove all these borehole pumps here and there? Who is the president? Who bears the bigger responsibility? Who agrees with all of those things that were happening? You cannot tell me that, oh no, it's other people, and then the main head, you want to actually, kind of give excuses for him. Adama Barrow is a terrible president, and it's his presidency that actually alienated you and brought about militarization of your region, as well as, injecting abject poverty on your people, removing water sources in your women gardens to make sure that you don't even have food to eat. Let's subject them to extreme hardship. And that's exactly what Adama has done to you people in Fonyi. Amage dalil kang amaga fenkang, just like alam mul bay ami nyaming. Ikbige bay fenka naman simply because they are from that particular part of the country. think and think better. Imam Pompol Bondi Dula Kotento Gambia mi alonko ya Jammeh Sambaje, they only removed it in your communities. So I don't know aka muna nyini Adam Barrow noma. What does Adama have that you people need from him? This is a man who doesn't care about anything that's got to do with you. Pretentiously, when he knew that he fought out with the people that actually brought him into power, out of his own selfishness and desire to remain in power, self-perpetuation, and then he wanted to befriend Yahya Jammeh. That is why Jammeh told him that, oh no, you nigga, you're a donkey. Because if you tell us that Jammeh is as evil as anything that nobody can ever imagine, and you came into power to salvage that country, the next minute you want to form an alliance with the person you call the most evil person in the world, then indeed you have some problems mentally. Balala Faba Karinol Minika Wulinun Kunungavoko, they are selling assets, they are doing this and that, they are bad fellows to borrow now because of personal protections and of course positions. Today they will not talk about this asset, they will not actually call any press conference. You know why? Because Idabe Lidumbo Konola, because Waldalta Lidumbo Wala Kabiri Yaka Mulla Modul Fa. They don't care because so long they are good, they don't care whatever comes their way. Konak Fognu Am Jom. It's high time you start to think and rethink how you actually go about your politics. Because if this government could destroy all your livelihoods and all of that without any regard and go and sell these items like borehole pumps, simply because they support Jammeh, that is how disgusting you are. And Barrow's got something to tell Gambians. And then he comes out, you see, pretentiously saying, oh yeah, my government. Your government cannot do anything about it because your government cannot account yourselves. Your government will be accountable to the next government. And then Adam Baro Minkere ya jamana sake o Canada la tara equatorial jina nida meke kumbere sora na mile tula karita manke mo kendedi. Itala masa kunda jawo nana maja mi yalon ko itaka mulla baludla leka wala tinye foko pare you inject extreme poverty on those people and then try to actually buy them to vote for you. And that is why when I see most of those folks trying to say, oh yeah, they got a Barrow made you believe that your entire problem is the UDP when you forget to have an oversight to look at Barrow's actions in our state house. They have reduced the political space to UDP versus NPP simply because all other politicians or most of the other politicians believed in nothing. And most of those people never actually wanted to be president. All they want is political position. So all they do is to establish a political party and of course join the regime so that they can have a position in government. That is their style of politics. One might disagree with the UDP in everything they do, but that's a very resilient political party. I'm not holding brief for anybody because if you know me, I don't care about go. If the truth favors the UDP, say it. If the truth favors the NPP, say it. If it favors none of those, say it. If it favors even your worst enemy, say it. The truth is the truth. I support Kurang a lot. And I believe in the fact that Kurang is doing a great job in exposing a lot of things that had happened in that commission. But I also believe that Kurang is as well a victim and a perpetrator. Because Kurang had no right to sell Yahya Jammeh's assets in the middle of the inquiry. You have not established any decision as per either Jammeh owned these materials legally or illegally, and then you started selling them. You were just a secretary to the commission. You are supposed not to be there selling items. That is not your responsibility. Who actually did the valuation for Kurang before he goes about selling items? And then he brags about selling them at a higher price. But Kurang, before you talk about price, who gave you the legal mandate whatsoever to go about selling items? And not just legal, but let's talk about, common sense here. You started that investigation. You did not get to a conclusion yet. You did not know either he owned them legally or illegally. You started selling them. That is prejudice. Kurang's education should have been way better than that. That's a man that I have a lot of regards for. But the truth is just the truth. But even though Kurang did not see, probably by mistake, he did not understand that he had no mandate whatsoever to start selling Yahya Jammeh's assets. But then when Some of the council members wanted to play dirty. He realized that no, something is fundamentally wrong here. When he started to stand his grounds, what did they do? He wrote to the office of the president. Of course, Kurang could not write to Batambedu because Batambedu did not appoint him. Batambedu might have recommended for his appointment and the president appointed him. So Kurang was never answerable to Batambedu. He was answerable to the president who appointed him. So writing to the president was the right thing, and that is exactly what Kurang did. But because they wanted to play dirty and they know the dude is not going to allow them to do that dirty, but they've already stained Kurang because they made you go about selling your Jammeh's assets when you had no legal mandate to do so. And they had to criminally connive to fire you. Because in Batambedu Bela Bakokona, Tapalemantambi Batambedu, La Batambedu is vicious evil. One of the most disgusting ministers that ever existed in the Gambia, from PPP to date. Batambedu defrauded the Gambia of millions. And Nakurota Dial Sungurola Purkada Batarayak or Yemuru Yeta Mari Furu, you go Motofala. Kaboko, I'm innocent. I'm innocent, we look at the list of ministers. You may found toke, Jakira Brodal toke, Yetaman and Doltel. Yolo Hamlin Hamu, Dangan Defung no come and Muna Tapale. A Balangan de Tapale Fekani Yagan and Chiboy Karra. We did not have to go to school. We grew up in the streets. And we know how it is to actually, maneuver within the streets. Todo len sol kos di jaya garau la le salfal fonda le finga taral be tapal yaran ko mona kelima jahannama dingolo. Imagine a Muslim, you call yourself a Muslim, you go to a community, you meet that this is their only water source. This is basically their only source of livelihood on a vegetable garden. It walla pumpul bondi wodla just to inflict pain on those people. All in the pretext that, oh yeah, they are Jammeh assets. And then the people will start protesting, you kill Haruna Jata, and my Tafati comes out to say they are rebels, they are people coming from Kazamas, they have local weapons here and there. Yaja kabring eko yaja mekitindo. And they put in almost billions. And then my father it's better they focus on reparations. You did not give them justice and you're talking about reparations. There must be truth and justice before reparations. But niaja my father yo famanga ka bal fata ya jamele de wara ya jamele kula diata de ni my father say ya jamele fano biata 1 minute fantala wala 1 second tala. Because of Haruna Jana's death, that my party will be liable for someday, he would actually try to create excuses to say, you know what, focus on reparations because my party in Lamansa Kundale, Mosabafa, Faraba Bantang, many alongo, they were only protesting against natural resources exploitation. Yeah, the mama mo fakede. Kambano min fatal bul Gambia police headquarters. We know about it. Aleo Mosabol min fa faraba bantang just out of protesting to ensure that their women garden remains. All of those things stain on the hands of this government, and then someday you will be accountable to it because you think, oh, you are in power, you've forgiven yourselves. No, a government will come that will account you because you failed to account Yaya Jammeh rightly, and then because of your political selfish interests, and now my party you are coming to say, you know what, it's better to focus on reparations. Reparations what? Reparations bring back life? Ko molga sika mbusol denge kangol la ke dundi modol kono ke kangol de fefa. Imam balafa wala moli ka foko, let's focus on this reparation simply because one way or another you are as stained as the person you're looking at. So you would say, oh, let's focus on reparation so that tomorrow, Purmasa Kundala Kasoto every time to come and kill Gambians, and then when they go, other governments come and say, you know what, let's focus on reparation. If they say, okay, another one will come in and say, let's focus on reparation. The next government will ensure there is accountability, transparency, and anybody found wanting in one way or another, you'll be locked up. Because all of us are coming into politics, and we are going to do it dirty. They've got to that level. Probably mature enough. If you're 30, you should be able to run for whatever political office in the Gambia. So that's basically it. And then when you look at some of the people that would tell you, oh yeah, this government is better. I know folks that I used to work with, or probably we work in the same institution. We don't work closely, but we work in the same institution, and you would see them. And then once in a while, you see them write stuff. I remember in 2016 when Jammeh lost elections and he said he was not leaving. And a couple of folks organized a seminar sort of in, I think, the Faculty of Law. I work in Brikama, and I had to get on a car to run to Faculty of Law because I wanted to know what exactly was going on. And by the time I arrived there, I was like, you know what, Jammeh says now stepping down. I'm like, this room is filled with students. In serious countries, the young people and universities bring about change. I was like, you know what, let's fill the streets. He lost the election, he's got to go, he's not going to kill nobody. He lost elections, he lost election, no matter what you people like about the man. You love him, he's from your communities, but he lost elections. That's just the fact. He had to go. But when I said, you know what, let's fill the streets, folks, many cases so busa Gambia be quite almost minister that ya bahud. Walla jeki de nimbor bal na de ka lonkunde kela mai ko sabambulu. Konka na fu moleta astri ko ya ka mo falek. Kasa ndo ni mo kilim fula fada puru ya ji tanala bot. But mo mala fi fala nyim banko e. They are all pretenders. They are all position seekers. Gomunyo dara alele aduna rek. By the time that conference ended, I was still standing within, you know, within and around the Faculty of Law. And all of a sudden I had to check my phone. Imagine that mol mimbe conference ola santa ngol mbe Facebook jibe ka ngaje wolbe siri mbaro koto, you know, even at halo la odla. Ngomva iso nyine palas nyinola. They thought they organized this conference just to that so boy life. Yeah, karanyol fanamba kada kanana and you go take a photo with Barrow. After that photo, it took a couple of, I think a month or two. Fast forward February 3rd. I remember it because it has to do with, you know, February 3rd of 2017. I was with close friend, Sarah Marcilla. So we went somewhere around Senegambia, and then I had to drop him off at one of the restaurants somewhere around the American Embassy. So when we got there, I was just to drop him off and probably go back. But when we got there, I was a bit curious, like, why do you need to come here? Because what's going on here? So I got off from the vehicle, like, you know, boys and their stuff. So we walk into the place. But when I got in there, like, I had to pull back. I was like, dude, what's going on here? A group of young people gathered to say Barrow's government was not youth friendly. That's the cabinet that was just selected, I think, a day or two earlier. And I looked at the people that were there, were the same people that we were in that conference. I was like, now I understand. You organized that Congress. You were saying all kind of things, acting so disorderly and tumultuous. And all of a sudden, oh yeah, the government that is just appointed its cabinet, they did not even start work, and you said that is not youth friendly, simply because you are not there. You see how selfish Gambians are? And now, oh yeah, we are meeting here because we want to put up a political party, and they started firing at Barrow, firing at Barrow, firing at Barrow. But where are we today? Bedfellows with Barrow. Kon lan ngeen gom. Lena de xam naa ko. Adam Barrow la man sakunda. Ah, ñene ay wax waxe daf day bari de. Waaye Adam Barrow di jël man suma boy boo xamantene ñoo we went to school together, we grew up together. Mu jël ko tej ko mu ne ko mo rey police fekk mom si bopam mo rey police reyut police for anything. He killed the cops to ban the United Democratic Party. That's exactly what happened, even though the case is in court today. But the chronology of things is that Adama Barrow's government killed the cops with the intention to arrest and, you know, incarcerate Mamadou Sabally, Bayo Sonko, and, you know, by extension, ban the United Democratic Party. You did not even need to study rocket science to understand that. You don't even need to witness the whole incident to understand it. You only need to listen to people. One thing I thank God for, like, I don't hold people accountable on what other people say. I analyze what exactly you tell me, and which makes a lot of sense that you depend on what you hear from people to actually make a, you know, an informed judgment. When Adama Barrow's government said that Usain Bojang killed the cops, but prior to that, let's look at it, let's say reflective thinking will tell you that, first, the chronology of things and events and how they happened. First, Yankuba Dabo, you know, had a problem with the state, and then he was to appear in court. UDP militants went to this court, and they had issues with the paramilitary. What happened? The paramilitary brutalized them there. And the two figures that were mentioned as paramilitary was Babu Jeng and Pate Jallow. They were not just mentioned that these are the people that brutalized their people, but Sabally Bayosonko and other people, Sabally wrote on his Facebook that these are the most callous people that you can ever imagine in the Gambia police force. And their evil will come back to them, and then they will pay the heavier price. Wala nyente ko mbenjo lale andumbe kukela lale mi yalonka masibo be warala. Now Sabally had given these people an opportunity. And had also not only Sabally, it's also like Bayosonko and other people who wrote similar statements, as well as other people who actually recorded audios of similar sentiments. But directed at who? Babu Jeng and Pate Jallow. But who is this Pate Jallow? I think he is an assistant IG or whatever they call him, AIG something. So this AIG Pate Jallow had a brother called Ilo Jallow who used to be a jungler for Yaya Jammeh, and then the junglers actually turned around and killed him too. Menen tafal to nyala kalabang. Wiri jarandare. Why defrek a bob. Man yere matuma ñooñu de. Cause do len jël doomi jaamur ko xamantene ñu juddoo ak mom yaro ak mom xamanté ak mom ñu xamné ki du rebel du dara ngeen tog rek fabriquer sen fen yi ba pare ngeen tek ko doomi jaamur ngeen da ngeen di tog ngeen di nelaw ñi ñu la nay xolé nonu lolu du fi am. Ay sàccakat ngeen, ay tapalekat ngeen, ay jaaykati drogue ngeen, ay reyukati nit ngeen. And we know all of you. You all are going to pay for this because this government is going to crumble, is going to fail, and we will incarcerate most of you. So because UDP talked about Babu Jeng and Pate Jallow, the government knew that UDP is the bigger opposition party in the Gambia. And then at the time, they were putting a lot of pressure on government. And they're like, you know what we can do? Comes the script of Sankare. Because Sankare lum nyumunti wasi lulu nunu yep. Hamala, that was a premeditated or a pre-planned script. Because within 30 hours of investigation, that entire script was not a preliminary investigation. That was a conclusive investigation report. What did Sankare tell us? Sankare said that the person who killed the cops was at the UDP court case in Banjul. That is the court case that I just referred to here. Was a dude in hoodie, and there was a dude in hoodie standing beside Yankuba Dabo. He works in Brikama Area Council. That means the person is very much connected to Yankuba Dabo, who is the chairperson of Brikama Area Council. That he was hired by politicians to kill a dozen of paramilitary men. And it was the UDP who had issues with the paramilitary, and specifically Babu Jeng and Pate Jallow. And part of the money this killer was paid was recovered when he was captured. But of course, when he killed the cops, his co-conspirators met him in a mosque where they provided him an escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamas. Nimbeta ken wala ko mistake or no. This is a fabricated, perfected script by the government of the Gambia against the United Democratic Party and its allies. It is not a mistake. You cannot tell me, one, UDP complained about Pate Jallow, and then you went and stationed another Pate Jallow at Sukuta traffic light, and a sniper from nowhere killed all of these, these two people and then wounded that lady. Then you turn around, because as soon as this event happened, the first comments we heard from even advisors of the president are like, it's UDP. Because that is the mentality, that is what you wanted to inject to the public. That is your intention. That is your script. Because Nimmi and police Olufa, he had no interaction with the police whatsoever. He had no discussions with the police whatsoever. It was like somebody who is standing somewhere like a sniper, an expert in guns, and then killing these innocent people for nothing. The only reason they had to kill these people is because one of them have the same name as the Pate Jallow that the UDP was complaining about. They just killed a recruit who had just finished training, and his only crime was that he had the same name as Pate Jallow, and the regime has an intention to kill a Pate Jallow to make it look like it's a mistaken identity, because it's the UDP that said they will revenge on Pate Jallow, who is an AIG. Look, and now I understand why some of you said I was probably a spy for Jammeh. That's funny. I wish I was. Honestly, I wish I was, because I know I could make a good spy. Because I can connect the dots. I don't need anybody to tell me. Call it whatever. But that's what I know. And I know it. So you people did that. After doing that, what did you do? You came out with a script. And that script, completely put UDP in a big ditch. Because if you told us that the killer works at Brikama Area Council. My son, but I'm going to phone Arake. He called the boy in hoodie. Wala police olfa. Min found a hoodie do offend the conda fella dental a hoodie do. Nintale police olfa do ala fonye. Say one time. Okay? Abe do ko la Brikama Area Council. Brikama Area Council ko putun dental la do ko la list of fella ko ale nyime modala fonya be do ko la department du mala Brikama Area Council. Another lie. Alkonyako, he was hired by politicians, but you never identified any politician that hired him. Another lie. You told us that part of the money he was paid was recovered, but even when the judge asked you to bring everything you recovered from Hussein Oboja, no penny was brought as monies recovered from him that were part of, people that paid him to kill the cops. Fania Abukalaba. But I told Konyako, people he met in a mosque provided him an escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamas. But Hussein Obojang was looking for a Marabu and got to Jululum, garage, and somebody directed him to Mama. But how can you imagine a rebel who came to actually, commit an assassination, business, because that's a business. You're paid to come and kill people, and then he does not know how to get back to the Casamas forest just to go to a garage in, Jululung and be crying about a white person. But those co-conspirators, hani for biato lo mo killing fintin din toli wol kono de ngamara ko co-conspirator lebeje wolule. Gambian Masakunda never came back out to tell us that everything we had told you Gambian people was a lie. Because in a serious government, the next government will ensure that DIG so face criminal charges and goes to prison. Because DIG so in one way or another knows everything about the killing of the cops. Because I tell you, be fabricated, will ya be sifaf. Because DIG so la control your. If you see they got Hussein Obojang, they were monitoring Hussein Obojang's phone, they are tracking his phone, and because he had heavy telephone traffic, but they never came to court with any call logs to prove that Hussein Obojang had heavy telephone traffic. Until the defense itself had to go and get Hussein Obojang's call printouts to prove to the court that Masakunda and Mimfo in their press conference is all lies. Abewolo kono. Alko he had co-conspirators, but altara la system mutanangali I realized ko Hussein Obojang natul kamina story from for manyoje. Because iko momi co-conspirators so ya samba to the thick forest of Casamas. This guy, the sister came to help him because he was acting disorderly in the house, simply because he was getting too disturbed by the issues that were happening within his life. And his brothers called the sister, and the sister was helping him to go and then probably get some, prayers or whatever, or marabu thing and here and there. And then Alnata realized you could not go back and tell the people that everything we had said is a lie. But Nimman Sakundamam Police Olfa, why did the government of the Gambia feel the need to actually fabricate an entire script of lies? A question we need to ask. That is a question we need to ask. Why would I lie about something I have no hand in? You only lie to cover up. And that is exactly what the government of the Gambia did. Because their entire script, the first script they brought out was an entire fabrication. But what is the motive? Because why would you think this person did this? Up till date, the government of the Gambia cannot establish what would have been Hussein Obojang's motive, because if first script of him the motive there would have been bawo UDP and police olu dum tanyola wala kamfa be wolto to let a police olu fa min na porque la kamfa da solve simply because you told ko e bejo la police olu, and that is why they fabricated that script. So it is a government masterminded mother of serving police officers in their line of duty simply because they wanted to score political points against their opponents. Niya for wala mtonya ni ma for be fan yalla. Tani moja mala kunduta nyunkodo and I don't care what they think about me because they don't feed me. because I'm friends with you, and all of a sudden you join government, you want to tell me to shut up, and I'm not doing sa toy wala sa remote. Boy control how you control your TV. Again, lo ma xam aduna nga buga man lu may wax yow yaa ma koy wax ngir yow da ngay liggéey si nguur bu cottu xonam. We got to respect each other, man. We got to respect each other. Serve your government. I have no business in that. I don't tell you what job you gotta do, but you don't tell me what I gotta say. So, you know, that's basically where people don't understand their limits. They don't understand boundaries. They think they can actually impose on other people because you have respect for them. But at the end of the day, you realize that this whole setup was against them. But moving on, this same government came to Kodiko. Or prior to that, the reason why government arrested Ouzo Bojang is that Ouzo Bojang got to Mama Jabi, me along ko NPP surrogate la mati, ala sim card of be registered in president barin ngola toyala. Otonim president ka futa bakelde. Mama Jabi fantolo moro, bayim moro min kata ka mol scam ka kodo ta mol bulukata moro ta tara dungi bukala o mor sifaldi. Not long ago he was in a NPP rally talking shit about the UDP. Anyway, I'm not against the opposition anymore. I have a goal, and that is against Adama Barrow and his government that actually incarcerated our brother and think that everybody's going to be quiet. No, I'm not an activist. I'm getting into the politics of it. So I see people who say, oh yeah, we're getting somebody, and I'm not advocating for nothing. I advocate for nothing. We are getting into this politics, and then we are going to make it either nice or filthy. Nolen ko bugi rek andame non. Duwaye mun rek defal lolu. Now, because Ouzo Bojang arrived at Mama, who was actually, you know, identified to him by the safety garage, and then he arrived there, and Mama capitalized on Ouzo's vulnerability because she saw a vulnerable condition. And then, by normal circumstances, if somebody tells you, I am from the Gambia, and then he looks very disturbed, and then you heard the news that police were killed in the Gambia, reasonable suspicion could be, I hope this is not a person who might be involved in this case in one way or another, but that does not give you any legitimate whatever to accuse the person of something you have no idea about. But Ouzo having his own genuine case and coincided that this event happened in the Gambia a day before, and he arrived in Casamance a day later, and then he had this particular problem talking to this woman about Natubabo Teninteng. While Ouzo is talking about my white woman, this and all business, this woman was screaming on top of her voice about, yo, do you know my relationship with the president here and there, you know, and then while she was recording all that, she went on and on talking about, you know, that she actually got the killer of the cops, and that the killer of the cops had confessed to her, and she had recorded the confession. Yalla do it. But while they were trying to put words in the mouths of the dude, it is as if, as disturbed as he was, he never actually mentioned anything about the killing of the cops, except for one point where he said, when I was passing, I saw a lot of people there. And it was on the basis of this audio that the Gambia Police Force arrested Ouzo Bojang. It is not on any tracking of the DIG, because DIG karaka telefono mi fama track. O telefono was dead, a batterio bantale, a flat tale, Ouzo wotu la ringala bungolo kono brufut, ala sim card fama bondi o telefono kono, adundala simple phone kono, anala simple phone la tara. O the DIG ka telephone jumala track. Up till date, this man is still DIG in the Gambia. Ning Adam Barrow Lamasa Kunda is not complicit in the killing of the cops. It's not a disgusting regime. It's not as disgusting and terrible as any bad governance. That man cannot continue to serve the police, because he should have been in prison for all the lies and fabrication he had said in the killing of men who were working under him. But Batara Masakunda Lomi along could deliberately they killed the cops. But Aljamani be caring. At this point, you will not be accountable to it, but the next government will account you for everything that you have done. So Adam Parolamasa Kundale police will fire. Ye father Lilo Menka Wolong to go after the United Democratic Party. So that means DIG saw him in barefoot in that press conference were all fabrications and lies. First, I was not there. But when I first saw the photos and, you know, it's like, wow, Ouzo, why would you get into things like that? I was like, oh, you know what, folks, things happen. The next minute, the audio was sent to me from my mother. And I listened to it and I was like, okay. I listened to the thing once, twice, and I listened to it again. So I called my mom back. I said, could you listen? Now, I want you to listen to this audio a little more attentively. Don't listen to it on prejudice. Listen to the words that are coming from Usaino's mouth and listen to the words that are coming from Mama. Listen to them separately. She did, and then I called back. I said, did you hear him say anything about killing the cops? I said, no. I said, but this is the audio they said is an incriminating audio on the basis of which they arrested this man. I said, okay, asakeno atetela barakula manta akuja. Hey, Omar Mane. My mother calls me Omar Mane because, you know, my namesake, my father's friend is Omar Mane. I was like, Omar Mane. I was like, okay, just let it slide, man. 2-3 days later, Sankare came out with a script. Then I concluded that government killed the cops. Not because of anything, but because of what the government had scripted. Because when they came out, they told us that he was at the UDP. I know Usaino. He's not into politics. When they told us he works in Brikama Area Council, I know Usaino. He never worked in any government department or government institution. When they said he's a rebel, I was like, finito. This is a cock and bull story by the government of the Gambia. And then DIG said, we Alpha Bravo from one point to another, until an unknown person was handed to us in Kasama. So mulialti, mama la audio. Mama ya wale janjang dunia beko no. Kabira ya janjang dunia beko ni Senegal la zanda moril kumandi. Wal nata ya Usaino mutaitata ya detain la side. They never asked him anything. They just detained him there until the Gambian authorities arrived. They handed him over to them and they brought him back on the single, accusation or allegations by Mama Jabi. But I'm gonna not okay. Kabri Mama Jabi not a court. The court asked, Mama, Italy nyimboyo mutako Italy mofala nyimuta, and then you had recorded this person. Can we have the recordings that you have done to this person? Mama ko recording in Italy. But do you know why Mama said recording in Italy? The Gambia police force had transcribed this particular audio on 3 separate occasions by 3 different entities. After every transcription, there is no single part of the audio where Usaino Bojang talked about killing the cops. They know that they have failed in their quest. That the audio you said is the incriminating audio had nothing that mentions the killing of the cops. That which you said is the confession has nothing to do with the killing of the cops. Now you cannot bring the audio to court simply because you know there is nothing in it. What are quite loko Usaino Bojang thing? Why do you still want to put it on him? Because it is your own people that killed the cops. Pretentiously, the DPP came to court and said, Niaje mama la Mama audio nyimfintini no is because Mama's phone was spoiled. Mama la telephone mantinya. Because Mama found a call. Atela telephone mantinya. Atela telephone minkera like she removed her WhatsApp and also removed her SIM card. But yela WhatsApp bon yela SIM card obon the audio mi alongo ya janjan dunia bekon. How can you not retrieve that when the audio was actually with the police and they have transcribed it on 3 occasions? Why does the Gambia police force feel the need to lie so vehemently in this case? Ning ayatalo ko ibulu medo si medo imankulonje munebe Gambia police force bulala nyuli ya baf satola wala kanyuli ya bachi kakadeng wandi dingokam DIG ni ad lady ngola kanga abadiale IGP Sanyang, then the Minister of Interior now ni ala dingola ila dimbala ka abadiale and the rest of the folks within the force. But the rest of the folks within the force ni atolle fanu abadiala aliele. But all of you are quiet because you said, oh, the police have sanctities and it has like laws and rules governing it. Hey, there is no rule between man and death. Kana mol fa batare ya koneko hani luwala be jambendela okani. Mem fanya la police wala fe wala batare ya wata kontinela. Because tomorrow I can become the victim. That our own leaders can connive in their political dirtiness to kill our men in front line simply because they want to satisfy some politicians. But fast forward, they said Usaino Bojang that killed the cops, Kabira police all far, While he was running, he was pursued by 3 military men. These 3 military men, Palmariba. And then while they were pursuing Usain Bojang, he was shooting at them. Now, let's connect that. He was shooting at them. That means he had killed 2 police officers and then wounded 1. That is 3 bullets already. But he was also firing in the air. Let's say he fired 2 or 1 shot. Let's say 4 now bullets already. And he was firing at these 3 military men who were pursuing him. And they were taking cover on fence line. Let's say at least 1 again. That is already 5 bullets out of a gun. But their ballistic examination said only 3 bullets came out of a gun. Now, 3 bullets came out of the gun. It actually wounded 2, it actually killed 2 and wounded 1. That's already 3. And he was actually firing at the folks who were pursuing him, and they were taking cover on fence line, and was also firing shots in the air. Where are those shots coming from? A different gun? You people are not criminally smart. You wanted to go by the Jammeh playbook, but you did not master it. Even Jammeh was not a master of his own playbook, because there were things that when we see happen in the Gambia, we just look at things and say, you know what, I want to do all fall drum. Aliya wala kay. Aliya wandi dingol fa tilimbaliya nin tajintiya nin balafa baliya kono foko padal mon dalafta ko la mol ka wo man na ken alko wale wole andolla fonninge ka ata kela jang. Allah man sakunda will be accountable. Give it to your disgusting judge. We don't care. This is a battle that Hana Ajarta Minna Ajarta Nyawola 10 times more. You are the government, you have the power, you have whatever, do whatever. But someday, somehow, justice will be served. Now, even whereas Usain Bojang, you said the person was running, that is the killer, and then the 3 military men were pursuing him, but or it was an isolated incident in an isolated environment, which is not actually the case. But while he was running, he was firing at these people and nobody could actually get him. But then he got to a point that somebody who was just sitting on a fence for whatever reason, a watchman, started pursuing him. Where were the others who were pursuing him from behind? Because ni watchman o malong ko modo lebe nyimba kam watchman o be obandi no nyari, because ni moja borola dorong, you don't start running after the person unless you see other people running after the person and then screaming either thief or whatever, then you also continue pursuing that person. But ni moja borola tabe tambikan dorong adam makili ebe obandi la purumo. So there should be reasonable suspicion, and then there should be some information that relates that this person that is running I kula ke janema je molla ba ba for you to also continue pursuing. Now, if that is the case, kabiring ibusoko watchman on ye usin the killer nyimutala fire rasul down. So ye mo muta fire rasul down. Mini ba bandikan nung. Muna atina walman fotaje. But I tell you, from Mutaya Rasul down when this guy was asked in court, I didn't feel don't fight koi malado a car malong. But I chika fire boy and the fire Rasul down fa canatela. It's a malong for didn't feel don't fight and go. But how are you seeing that person that you are rasuling down? It doesn't make any common sense. It doesn't add up. It's logically stupid. Kambia man sakundale nyimbe fodi. Abeo kono nyinkata man nyina amala den kojet. But imam mom imalong amaria mindung while the person escaped you and is running, he turns around. A mebun kido nin kidi kesola, but I kido nyina fangota ebun kido nyina wala nyinte kon kido to bomba nga bulletol bambani kuje I pull the trigger on the person. Simple. But no, he threw the gun at you, but you don't see the person, but the gun he threw at you, you could see it and you can bend so that the gun does not hit you. But the person that threw the gun at you, you cannot tell if he's wearing white or black. Does that make sense? That makes sense. But even whereas that makes sense to them, this person picked this gun and he was supposed to inform the authorities. And what was he supposed to do with that gun? To ensure that the authorities get the gun as soon as possible. But what did he do? He called his boss and his boss told him, hide the gun somewhere. I will arrange for it to be picked up. Why does the watchman and his boss have to hide that gun? Are we connecting the dots? While the watchman and his boss hide the gun, and the boss said he was going to arrange for it to be picked up, what does the boss know about the gun for him to arrange for it to be picked up? What does he know about it? These are just coached and picked witnesses to come and lie for the state. We know this kind of things have been happening long before this regime. atolta kukuta kelami yalon ko ngunna na maje na man kala nyin sun sulutu manyat o de Gambia na moje hani ya Jammeh nala ya Jammeh ya de kabri be jawara nyol sambal alkali commission de when they were disposing of their goods they did not do it the way you people did it. Those people at some point, in as much as they later became murderers here and there, at the beginning they had the Gambia at heart. Barrow, you never had this country at heart. You were just after how much money you could make, how much to amass wealth, by all means, criminally or otherwise. Just for you to remain in power. But fast forward, what happened? Alko Usenu Boja Samato Mindung to kill the cops. He was asked to wear this same suit in court and it did not fit him. All your 13 witnesses all came and lied to the teeth. Your DPP was to cross-examine Usain Bojang, and there was nothing credible that came out of the cross-examination, if not shame for the government and, of course, its, Director of Public Prosecution. Oto Adam Barola mansa kundama tapale mansa kundalti. Tajidente mansa kundalam, sunyara mansa kundalam, mofala mansa kundalam, and then they deprive people of their basic livelihood. They went to Combo South Kamola, Muni Alonko, places and gardens of women ka table ka mining sites for their associates like Gach. They went to Fonyi, they destroyed women gardens and take their water source, water pumps and water boreholes. Better to go and establish farms in their own regions. They killed the cops to ban the UDP. Mega Bank Miyalonko Gambia sang 9 years ago for 900 million. They went back and sold the bank at 900 million. If a government can do that, then they can also sell a car for $5,000 and then still sell a donkey cart for $3,000. And then turn around and tell you that, oh yeah, we are a transparent and of course an accountable government. The most unaccountable government, the most corrupt government that ever existed in the Gambia cannot be any other than Adama Barrow's regime. Adama and his associates will face justice someday. And we will ensure we oppose your government to the best of our ability. Si ham-ham rek lañ koy tek. Si bonay sa nguur gi la ñuy wax. Si sen jiko yi tapale, si sen jiko yu bon. And then we will let people understand that them reducing the political space to us versus the UDP is not the point. This government is as bad itself. That Gambians need to understand that they cannot reduce the political space to that level because young people will get into politics and of course they will have a voice in the politics and they will ensure that they communicate effectively and efficiently to the Gambian populace to understand that it's only patriotism that will move that country and not individuals who are only after how much to fill in their pockets and then just go about that flamboyant lifestyle and trying to do send and nyom kay nyom den teki wala itol balle fruta. Atara batara ya kono ya mola bankola kudo be na fulo be sunyawol wala nyanta danna. So now when I see people who jump around Barrow and other people who jump, we are advisors, we are this and that, yan lan gen xam lan gen mun solo Gambia rek la muna am te singuri Barrow rek la muna am. But enjoy while it lasts because that is all you can ever be. Anything. No serious government, no serious honey community kabilo from a kabilo government. Some of you cannot even make a little tail in there, let alone a whole country. Another thing would be United Democratic Party need to withdraw its endorsement on Batambedu. Failure to do that is basically complicity in everything that happens with Batambedu and all his corrupt practices in government. Just like the government of the Gambia need to withdraw its endorsement of Batambedu to the ICJ because Batambedu does not deserve to work anywhere. He is the most corrupt person that one can ever imagine in the Gambia. Batambedu is the goat of corruption in the Gambia, greatest of all time. So Badingolu, we will cut it short there. It's almost getting to 5 p.m. over here. And we will continue these conversations. It's not stopping. We printed the copies of all these materials. We will be reading through them. 40-feet container, water irrigation pipe. Alemini bondi ya jamela garden will be okay. Somebody kabedi ja oil company ja oil company arukachi ja oil company rik. Wecho no montana no. Tem na arukachi ja oil company. But anyway, you all have a wonderful evening, and we hope that, unfortunately, I cannot see the comments from here, because most times when I put the live off, then I'm able to get on that. There were conversations around it. But whatever that is, we hope that we would catch up, anytime on any day we have time, we will be back here, because any spare time we gotta talk about this government. Like we personally, I didn't have no interest in all of these politics before. But you know what? When your community and your people are suppressed to a point that they push you into it, go into it all out. Because I told them lantala brufud, ya Jammeh will be takana pa birungol booty, I told them Murunantol Carol Yantantol Nyafita, I told them Muratol Talal da Maltema. Batarayamantambiwala. So Adam Barola Mansakunda, Manke Mansakunda, Kennedy, the longer this government stays, the worse Gambia becomes. Look at the rate of, look at basically the Gambian dollars. Niyo fama jibe niyo keba for the mini fama be central bank mini nyanto regulate la wala fama tamu bureau te local bureau te mini alongo the local bureaus, they give the banks a rate that is so low, and of course the local bureaus have a higher market, and all the foreign currency goes to the local market, when most of them within the central bank are actually shareholders in all of these bureaus. How he is going to manipulatively, corrupt the system for his personal benefits. Just like security port nindula kodongo mi yalon ko masala batara yale o be sabu. So wala bedanna. And we are all out on Barrow. Whatever he can do, let him do it. But we will ensure that your government fails and crumbles and ends by the end of 2026, because you don't deserve to be president in any serious country. Gambia dorona fanamu. Barela man siabe danna la kadu item moja ubalti. Kadu kata wandi sadel do ka ji bohol bondi wada ka police wala fanga fa. Mini yalon ko wandi dingol mi yalon hani kuo kuy mola kela. You gave 1 million to mama. Mama ite be 1 million do domola la bara lungbe sila ite be tala lan ka ke bu podo kono ikara ka fanga lado, because mile 2 is where you all are going to be, because ale nyimmin keteng at. You think those innocent souls are going to rest when you kill them out of nothing? Mane. Ya Jammeh def na fi ay njombe 22 years amantambi wala. Luolu yaje dron senkal lunna batalala. So bade mo ngal tentu ngal jay, for another time. Thank you.